Okay, as you're hearing there, this is an international team competition where teams will fight off against each other. The first two is going to be Wales versus Hungary, which are kicking off now. It's a series of eliminations. Team will go against team until we come to the final two to decide who the overall champions are for this European event. To say again, Taekwondo is a Korean martial art, noted above other martial arts for its high kicking techniques, as it uses a lot of high kicking techniques during competition. Referee just issuing a warning there to the Hungarian fighter. The rules here allow for semi-contact, continuous sparring. The referee only stops and separates the fighters when they go out of the fighting area or get entangled in each other. There are judges around the fighting area who actually judge the competition and decide who the winner is based on overall points scored. Another thing which is interesting to watch for, which is peculiar mostly to Taekwondo style competition, is that they will remove points from a fighter if he loses balance, if he or she loses balance during their attacking technique when kicking and so on. This is because of the emphasis which is placed by the Taekwondo style of martial arts on correct balance, correct technique. So now the decision goes to the judges. And that's one win for Wales. Again, here we've got the Welsh team representative there with the red belt on and the Hungarian team with the blue belt on, so it's quite easy for you to follow. That's pretty hard going really, because the cause of the loss of balance was the other guy attacking him, but that, as I say, is the way that the rules are interpreted in Taekwondo competition. You fall over, you get a warning, simple as that. Again, this time getting a warning for retreating outside of the competition area. That was an axe kick delivered by the Welsh fighter there. Basically that is, the kick is raised high in the air and you attack downwards with the heel to your opponent. Good roundhouse kick to the head there, very nice. Nice control, nice technique. You notice the protective equipment that the fighters are wearing, which all fighters have to wear, mandatory. The foot pads, which are called kickers, which are basically a polystyrene foam about ½ an inch or so thick, encircling the entire upper area of the foot around the back of the ankle. but leaving the sole of the foot bare, and the kind of gloves that they have on, which have an open palm to them, so allowing a certain degree of grabbing if necessary. Although I believe that grabbing is in actual fact eliminated in this competition. Well, that's another win to the Welsh team, so that's moving them steadily on into a commanding position. Those good roundhouse kicks straight into the opponent's face. That scores very heavily, very heavily. Taekwondo judges do score considerably on high kicking, and when you get one like that, that definitely can be very decisive in a match. This is obviously a very strong team that the Welsh side has fielded. So it's for the Hungarians now to literally fight their way out of the hole. You know, the fighting stances which are generally favoured by Taekwondo stylists, most of them will fight in a sideways onto their opponent's stance, which allows for fast kicking off the front leg. Under these competition rules, they don't have to worry about foot sweeps because they're not allowed. If they were, then that particular stance wouldn't really be very much good, because it would leave yourself quite open to being swept from the front foot. As I said, the emphasis is definitely on the use of the legs for kicking purposes. Well, that's the end of that competition. Now, that was a little bit closer, but I still think it's most likely to go to the Welsh side again. We could probably see a clean sweep. Yes, that's one again. That's 3 to the Welsh side. I think at this stage the Hungarians must be thinking that it was hardly worth making such a long trip. Good spinning kick there, just falling short of hitting his opponent in the face, but nice looking technique. Welsh fighter here being very aggressive. This is a good hook kick he threw there as well. This is to be expected, because he's got to keep up the good work that's already been set by his previous 3 teammates. When you're in team competition like this, the last thing that you want to do is to be the one guy to lose when the rest of the team is winning. So hence the reason why he's been very aggressive so far in the fight. It's a nice hook kick attempt there by the Hungarian, and a return the compliment there from the Welsh fighter. Both techniques landing lightly on the head, so that score's okay, because that's the rules. some forms of Taekwondo competition that do allow full contact. But this is not the case for today. Referee just adjusting the dress of the Hungarian fighter there. That's the end of that round of the competition, and again I think there's no doubt that the Welsh fighter again will have swept through to an easy victory. Once again, that's four straight wins to Wales. This Hungarian team is certainly going to have to pull something out of the bag if they're not going to have the embarrassment of a complete whitewash in this competition. Good double roundhouse kick there, just catching his opponent to the head. But having said that, at the same time he lost balance and took a warning for that. This Hungarian being considerably more aggressive than his previous teammates. Whipping, spinning kick there from the Welsh fighter, just sailing past the face of the Hungarian. Nice axe kick, taking advantage there of the Hungarian turning his back. As the referee is warning the Welsh fighter there for going out to the fighting area. It can be a bit hard, that kind of thing happening in that way, being warned for that sort of thing, because sometimes the fight can just simply just take you out of the area. It's not that you're actually retreating. You see there, he's giving him a second warning for that, and it's rather difficult when you're in a situation like that. You're not actually deliberately stepping out of the area, it's just a case of being forced out. But the rules for this have to be blanket in this way. That way it stops any kind of argument of referee being more hard on a person than another referee. If you just say, right, step out of the area, you get a warning. It's as simple as that. There can be no arguments then. Well, that was a closer competition there between the two, so it'll be interesting to see. I think it's still going to go to the Welsh fighter. Yeah, that's again. It looks like Wales is definitely on its way to a clean sweep here. There's no way that the Hungarian team can win now.
Well, the pressure's going to be on this Welsh fighter now after all his teammates making such a clean sweep. He's most certainly going to want to do absolutely nothing less, and as you see, he's coming in quite aggressively to make real sure that he isn't one who's going to be going home, knowing that he let the side down. Referee warning the Hungarian fighter there for stepping outside of the fighting area. I say the Welsh have fielded a very strong team here. Definitely superior technique to the Hungarian team. It's a little sad to see a team to travel such a long distance and go away without actually even managing to win, eliminated in the first part of the tournament, but that's the way things go sometimes. So this has been a slightly more even match than some of the previous. Not so much necessarily because of the techniques actually that have landed, but rather because of the lack of techniques landing. I still think nonetheless that it's going to go to the Welsh fighter here. He's on the left of the screen, so yes, that's again once again another straight win for Wales. That's Wales having made a clean sweep there. We're moving on to the next leg of the competition with two other teams facing each other. We'll have to wait to hear the nationalities of these teams. I believe the guy in the black is from Spain. I can see a spanner on his back there, so that's obviously he's the Spanish fighter. But I'm not too sure about the guy in the white uniform. So we'll have to wait to see this. Well, the Spanish fighter's aggressive enough, although he's not too high on technique. He'll be losing points there for overbalancing. And that's the end of that particular match. It'll be interesting to see how the judges score that. It was quite an aggressively fought match, but as I said, there wasn't any really decisive techniques being thrown, but we'll wait and see. We're on to the second match of this team competition. Nice attempt at an axe kick there from the fighter in the white uniform. And again. As the referee taking a point away from the fighter in the white uniform there for, I think, for grabbing his opponent behind the neck. So you won't want to do that again, because that's quite a considerable handicap to be having points taken off you in a competition. Giving a warning now to the fighter from Spain for doing a similar kind of foul. And that's the end of that match. As I say, I didn't hear at the beginning of this particular team fight who was represented by the team in the white, but I think that it's Ireland in actual fact. I think a bit of frustration there coming out in the Spanish fighter as he throws a left hook in that clash. Fortunately, it didn't do any damage. Referee giving the Spanish fighter a warning for holding on to his opponent. Okay, so that was once again another win for Ireland. So that's 3 straight wins for Ireland against this leg of the competition against Spain. Well, that was a fair attempt by the Spanish fighter to try to stay within the fighting area. It's interesting that the referee doesn't give a strong warning for him. I think that's an acknowledgement of the fact that he didn't step out as a result of an attempt to get away from his opponent. Again, the Irish fighter is quite clearly dominating the fight here with superior technique, plus the fact that he's got a considerable height and reach advantage over the Spanish guy. Good attempted hook kick there, coming back with a roundhouse kick and knocking the Spanish fighter out of the fighting area again. That's a second warning from the referee. If he goes out again, I suspect that the referee will probably take points off him for it. Well, that's the end of that competition. I think there's no doubt that the Irish fighter will once again take this particular match. Yes. Well, that's straight wins for Ireland, so it looks like Spain is going the same way as Hungary did against Wales. A bit of rough stuff going on here. I don't see that there's any point in doing that. Yeah, that's quite correct. The referee is giving a very strong warning to the Spanish fighter for that bit of roughing his opponent out of the ring. Irish fighter trying a jumping kick there at a point where he was far too close really to be able to execute a technique like that. It seems rather pointless that he should try that thing. I think it's just a bit of effort. Well, it seems that the referee has in actual fact disqualified the Spanish fighter there. I must admit I didn't actually see anything that was worthy of disqualification there myself, but obviously the referee saw something more than what I saw, so that was a straight through win for the Irish team. And we move on to the next two teams. The referee taking 1 point off there because the fighter fell. I've got some really aggressive fighting going on here. Interestingly enough, although this is basically a European Championships, they have brought in a guest team from Australia, which is a competitor on the left. And the one with his back to us now is from Holland, from the Netherlands team. Good roundhouse kick there from the Dutch fighter to the head of the Australian. And again the Australian returning there with a nice roundhouse kick back to the head of the Dutch fighter. That was quite a good even match. It'll be interesting to see how the judges come down. Yes, this time this has gone to the Dutch fighter. I thought that he'd just edged it, but it was a very close match anyway, so we'll wait and see just how the rest of this particular team event goes. And the particular fighter, the Australian fighter, though, has chosen to wear the head guard, which is an option in this competition. You can wear it, or if you choose not to, then that's okay too. Sometimes when fighters have an injury of some sort, perhaps a cut or something like that, they often choose to wear the head guard in competition, but the majority of them don't. Referee there warning the Dutch fighter for holding on. Oh, very good front thrusting kick from the Australian there. Really launched himself into that technique straight into the face of the Dutch fighter. Looks like some rather heavy contact to the head coming from the Australian fighter there. Those slinging hooks around there seem to be contacting rather heavy. If he continues on like that, he could end up getting a warning, so he wants to be careful. The Dutch fighter retaliating there. I think this is developing into a little bit of a war actually that's going on here. Yeah, the referee seems to be of the same opinion, and he's telling both fighters to just cool it a little bit. Well, that's the end of that match anyway. I think the referee will issue a warning or he's actually taking points off for exiting the fighting area again from the Dutch fighter. And that's going to be fairly decisive, so I think the Australian will get the decision on this. Yeah. Good roundhouse, followed by a spinning heel kick from the Australian there to the body of the Dutch fighter. Referee just giving a warning to both fighters there for excessively heavy contact. Whenever a competition gets to this kind of level where you're really basically fighting to get yourself back into the flow of things, that's quite common that the degree of contact does increase. That was a bit silly there. That's the Australian fighter appeared to be gripping and using the knee. The referee chose not to give a warning public straight to either fighter there, which I suppose reflected the fact that both are infringing the rules equally as much. That's another win to Australia then. It must be rather difficult to separate some of these lads, because I must admit that was a very, very close fight with no real highly obvious technique scores anyway. Well, the Australians certainly come out like a tiger in this fight anyway. Oh, that was a nice technique from the Dutch fighter, spinning back kick to the Australian that connected quite nicely. The referee warning the Australian there for moving outside of the fighting area as well. With a nice spinning technique from the Dutch fighter, but just out of distance. Referee telling both fighters to keep their kicks up a little. There's a few kicks going dangerously close to the groin area there. Well, the Australian certainly put a heck of a lot of effort into this fight, launching himself with some really tremendous kicks, but not quite managing to make the contact necessary. Well, that's another one where I wouldn't particularly like to be in the judge's position of having to decide that one. I'd rather fancy that it might go to the Australian again, but we'll wait and see. Yeah, that's another win to Australia. And we see that spinning technique, just nice, falling short of the Australian's face, but it was a nice looking technique. As the referee takes away 1 point there from the Dutch fighter for falling during a technique. And the Australians are certainly stamping their mark on this particular leg of the competition. It seems to have been consistently the way so far that once a team has got a couple of fights ahead, that's basically been it. It's decided the outcome. The team which has lagged behind just hasn't been able to make it back onto competition terms. There's a rather heavy contact there from the Australian. I think the referee is likely to take a point away here for this. No, he's just going to leave it at a stern warning. And that's the end of the match. Well, that's a change anyway. That's a win over to the into the Holland camp anyway, into the Dutch camp. Some nice combinations of straight punching followed by kicks there. Referee just warning both fighters, I think they're for holding on. That's a point taken away from the Dutch fighter for losing balance. It's been a fairly closely matched fight so far, but to have points taken away as a result of loss of balance can be quite decisive. Now that's the end of the match, so it's over to the judges to decide. That's another win to the Dutch team, so the Australians are certainly not having a clean sweep on this one. So if you didn't hear that properly, they're going to toss a coin, and then when the referee can manage to toss the coin properly, each team will choose their best fighter in a fight-off, because they've had it even so far. Holland and Australia are even, so now we have the fight-off. This is basically a kind of sudden death. The winner of this will decide the winner of the actual team event between the two. So the pressure will certainly be on both these guys to bring home the bacon, as it were. That's a warning against the Dutch fighter for exiting the fighting area. Nice attempted axe kick from the Dutch fighter there, but not quite in distance. There's a good hook kick thrown in from the Australian. Oh. Well, that was a bit pointless. You seem to have attempted to lead with a running headbutt there. Well, that's it. Now it's all in the lap of the judges as to decide the outcome of this match, which will decide the outcome of the entire competition between the two countries. Okay, so Australia have taken it. Now, it's tough on the Dutch side because they did fight their way back out of the hole. As I said, so far in the competition up to that point, no team that had actually started off by losing a couple of the first fights actually managed to pull back, but the Dutch had done it. But nevertheless, they've gone out anyway. Both of these fighters showing some nice technique. Unfortunately, I'm once again not able to say which particular teams these are that are competing against each other, because unfortunately they've edited out the beginning of this particular competition where they announce the countries that they're from, so we'll have to wait until we hear it when they announce the points at the end of the match. I think a little bit of play acting there from the guy in the white. Well, the crowd certainly appreciated that particular match. I think the team in the white suit is from England. So we've just got to establish which who are the guys who are in the blue and red. And a lot of great technique coming from these two guys so far, but certainly plenty of aggression. English fighter jumping in there with a back fist to the head of his opponent. Well, that's going to be a point loss to the guy in the red for overbalancing whilst throwing a kick. This English fighter just lost a point there again as a result of falling. That's the end of the match. Well, that was a little closer than the last one, so it'll be interesting to see who it is who gets the decision. I see one judge there is showing a draw. Yes, that's a drawn match. Okay, this is the Bulgarian team again fighting this time against the English team. Bulgarian attacking there with 3 axe kicks. And the English fighter there replying with a very nicely placed axe kick to the head of the Bulgarian. The axe kick is a very powerful technique when used correctly, but it's very rare in actual fact to see it land with any great power. The fighter needs to be very flexible in order to raise the leg high enough to really get that downward power. Nevertheless, this Bulgarian guy really seems to favour that particular technique. That's about 6 or 7 that he's thrown so far, and more to come. Well, that's the end of this particular match, so it's now into the hands of the judges to decide. And that's another win for the English team. Nice axe kick. You see that landing just nicely on the side of the head of the Bulgarian fighter. That's just as it's supposed to. Not too hard, not too light. Nice hook kick score there from the English fighter. Very difficult technique to block when thrown is a hook kick. The angle that it comes at you from, it looks very often like a side kick coming out, and then all of a sudden you find it just whipping round to tap you on the side of the head. Got particularly long legs, this English fighter, and he's making very good use of them. Another good hook kick there, just skipping across the front of the face of the Bulgarian fighter. Bulgarian replying there with a spinning kick, but just being a little bit out of distance. That's the end of the match. I don't think there's any argument going to be about who's won that anyway. That's quite an easy straight win for the English fighter, I would say. Yeah. Nice hook kick though, you see, just going in, catching the ball. Nice technique there, possibly a little bit too heavy though. Caused a cut on the fighter's face. I think that is almost certainly going to result in a warning at least. An action replay of that technique. Now that is a perfect hook kick. Okay, so there's, as you probably heard there, the judges have decided that it wasn't an excessively heavy technique, it was just simply that the way that the fighters clashed together at the same time. So that's a straight win there. Judging by the cries of Yarvul in favour of the fighter who's now adjusting his kit each time he attacks, I take it that that's the German team. Unfortunately, he doesn't have it written on his back, and I wasn't able to hear at the beginning of this particular match the names of the two teams. And some nice aggressive combinations from this guy with his back to us now. I'm thinking is from the Swedish team in actual fact. His flag you can see straight in front of us now. This is a decision over to the judges. Yes, it is. It is. In fact, I can hear now the announcer announcing that that was one win for Sweden. So that is a Germany versus Sweden team event, this particular one. German fighter there wearing the red belt round his waist, the Swedish fighter with the blue. Nice spinning kick there from the German fighter. Just a little bit too short though, not quite managing to make contact. German fighter coming in there a little bit strong with those punches. He must be a bit careful that he doesn't make heavy contact. That's the point being taken away there from the Swedish fighter. I didn't quite see what it was that the referee was taking the point away for. I think it was possibly for holding. That's a point also being taken away from the Swedish fighter, is it there? Again, for moving outside the ring. Okay, well that's gone into as a draw. And a German fighter with the red band round his waist, Swedish fighter with the blue. Oh, Swedish fighter coming in there very aggressively and scoring with some nice techniques. Finishing there with a nice spinning technique. Referee just, I think they're giving him a mild warning for excessive contact. Beautiful jumping spinning technique there. Very, very hard to control the power then. Well, I rather think that that's a bit hard going. I didn't see any particularly excessive contact there. And when you take into account the fact of the type of technique that he was throwing there, it's very, very difficult to manage to control that kind of a technique. That's a point away for the German fighter, falling over. And one away from the Swedish fighter for going outside of the ring. That's a Swedish fighter again. Well, so far this has been one of the best particular matches that I've seen of the event in its entirety. Some nice techniques. Again there, the German fighter throwing a nice jumping spinning kick there. So it's over into the hands of the judges. Certainly the warning points are going to take a lot there. So that's this 1 to Sweden. Nice looping over the top left hand there to the face. Following through with a nice roundhouse kick. Great combination there, finishing off with that spinning kick to the head. This is the kind of thing that you want to see in Taekwondo. Now, I think that was the technique. It appeared to me. Now, it can't have been. I thought that was the technique that the referee penalised him for excessive head contact, but in actual fact it couldn't have been, because the referee didn't stop him there. German fighter coming in there with a axe kick, but not quite in distance. These two fighters not quite managing to follow the last match for technique anyway. There's a wheel kick there coming in from the Swedish fighter, but well out of distance. Nice double roundhouse kick there from the German fighter. I think both fighters could do with being a little bit more aggressive and going in a little harder to each other. It would certainly help them score better technique. Well, that's the end of what I think is a fairly evenly fought round. And that's given to the Swedish fighter. Moving on to the next leg of the competition, the one guy facing with his back towards us is the Irish fighter against Wales, against the Welsh fighter. This should be a good competition. This should be particularly nice. 5 matches coming through. Both of these teams have shown particularly good technique. The Irish fighter getting forced out of the ring there. Irish fighter with the red band round his waist, Welsh with the blue. Somewhat contrasting styles here, as you've got the Irish fighter fighting with his right leg forward and the Welsh fighter with his left leg forward. Not quite managing to cover the distance to each other yet. They're still a little bit out of distance with their techniques. Well, that's over to the judges to decide. I mean, that would be a very, very close fought match, I think. That's over one to the Welsh team. And pressure's going to be on the Irish fighter now to even things up, so you can expect to see him coming out with all guns. Looking like he's getting a little bit heavy on the contact, the Irish guy there. Gonna have to be careful. He doesn't want to end up spoiling his chances by getting warnings against him. There's a lot of techniques being thrown, but so far there hasn't been any really clean landing technique that I could say would really catch the judge's eye. Welsh fighter there favouring this hopping forward with his right leg in the air. Oh, nice hook kick from the Welsh fighter. Not quite managing to make full contact with it though. That's the end of that match, so it's into the judges' hands there. Again, I think a very closely fought one. We'll just wait and see as to whether or not they... That's the end of the match, so it's over to the judges again to decide the winner. That's quite an easy decision, made straight away in favour of the English fighter. English fighter showing excellent dexterity with that right leg of his. It's a first warning to the Welsh fighter for stepping outside of the area. Referee warning the English fighter there for some reason. I don't know exactly. I didn't see what it was that he did that was wrong, but obviously the ref must have seen something. An axe kick thrown by the English fighter there, but just a little bit out of distance. Since the second round of this match. The fighter making an awful lot of impression, really. Do with throwing a little more technique. That was a bad roundhouse kick there from the English fighter. English fighter delivering a side kick there into the Welsh fighter, but a bit low there. I don't think that'd be scored. And that was a rather low scoring round, so it'll be interesting to see how the judges give it. Well, that's over. That's the English fighter again has won that fight. Okay, well, you'll have heard that quite clearly. So just onto the awards. So there's the first place, the England team. Some pretty enormous trophies there being handed out for them to put on their mantelpiece if they've got one big enough to stand one on. Well, I hope you enjoyed this International Taekwondo Championships. Look forward to being with you again sometime. This is Phil Mayo signing off. Thank you.